The first thing my daughter ever asked me was whether the sky could fit inside a glass of water. She was 3. She had never seen the sky. I told her yes, because I was her father, and because telling her the truth would have killed her. The veal had been on Earth for 9 years by then, and the truth was that the sky did not belong to us anymore. The sky belonged to the long silver wedges that hung over our cities like patient knives, and to the soft-voiced administrators who walked through our schools with clipboards, looking for what they called the gifted, and to the trucks that came at night and never came back. So I told her yes. I filled a chip tumbler from the kitchen tap, and I held it to the lamp and I said, "See, all of it, the whole sky, right there in your hand." She looked at the water for a long time. Then she said, "It's smaller than I thought." I laughed. I remember laughing. I remember the sound of it bouncing off the boarded windows of the kitchen, and how strange my own laugh had become, and how I had to look away from her because if I had looked any longer, I would have shown her what was happening behind my eyes. We lived in a house at the bottom of a cul-de-sac in what used to be Oregon. The Vale had not renamed the states yet. They were patient about that sort of thing. They were patient about everything. They had been patient when they offered us the partnership, and patient when we refused it, and patient when they showed us, over a single afternoon, what their patience cost. 3 cities. They did not pick the biggest. They picked the ones that would teach the right lesson. Then they sat back in their long silver wedges and they waited for us to come to the table, and we came. The partnership had rules. The most important rule was about children like mine. Her name was Wren. She was 7 now, though the world outside thought she was 9 months old. Because of what I could do, and what I had been doing since the day her mother did not come home. I will tell you about her mother. I will tell you about all of it. But first you need to understand the house. The house was a slow place. I had made it that way. Inside the walls, inside the boarded windows and the doors I had nailed shut, and the cracks I had stuffed with rags, time did not move the way it moved outside. Outside, a week was a week. Inside, a week could be a year, or a year could be a week, depending on how tired I was and how much of myself I was willing to spend. I was very tired. I had been spending myself for a long time. The Veal did not know about my kind of gift. They thought they had catalogued us all. They had not. There were a few of us, scattered, who could do small things to the shape of an hour. We did not announce ourselves. We learned quickly what announcing yourself cost. Wren's gift was bigger. Wren's gift was the kind of gift the Vale had built their whole occupation to find. I had not told her yet. On the morning everything came apart, she was kneeling on the kitchen floor with a half-eaten saltine in one hand, drawing a mountain on the linoleum in pencil. She drew it the way she always drew it, with a road going up to a squared door at the top, and a small stick figure standing in front of the door with its hands out. "That's Mom," she said without looking up. "I know, sweetheart. She's waiting." I crouched beside her. I put my hand on the back of her neck, very gently the way her mother used to. Mary had a way of touching our daughter that always made me think of someone testing the temperature of bathwater, careful, deliberate, full of love. I had been trying to learn it for 6 years. "Wren," I said, "we've talked about the mountain. I know, it's not a real place." She looked up at me. She had her mother's eyes, brown, wide-set, very still. She had a small smear of pencil graphite on her cheek. She said, "Then why do I know what the door looks like?" I did not have an answer to that. I never had an answer to that. I straightened up, and I went to the window and I pulled back the corner of the cardboard, just an inch, and I looked out at the cul-de-sac. The ice cream truck was there again. It had been there 4 days in a row. An old box truck painted blue, with a hand-drawn picture of a smiling cone on the side, and white plastic letters above the serving window that spelled out MR. Kibo's the man's inside was old, white stubble on a brown face, a brown cap, eyes the color of wet slate. He sat in the driver's seat with the window down and one elbow on the sill, and he did not call out, and he did not ring a bell, and no children came. He just sat there. He looked at our house. The first time I had seen him, I had almost walked out into the street with the kitchen knife. Mary used to say that I was the kind of man who solved problems by running at them. She said it like a complaint and like a compliment, and I had never been able to tell her which one I heard more. I had not run at him. I had sat down at the kitchen table and I had thought, and what I had thought was, if he were Vale, or working for Vale, the house would already be gone. So he was something else. I let the cardboard fall back over the window. Behind me, Wren was singing under her breath. It was a song her mother used to sing. I had not taught it to her. I had never sung it. She just knew it. The way she just knew what the door at the top of the mountain looked like, the way she sometimes said things at dinner that I had said to Mary in bed years ago, in another room, in another life. I had been telling myself, for a long time, that these were coincidences. I had been telling myself a great many things. That afternoon, Ren got out. I had fallen asleep at the kitchen table. I do not know for how long, because the house was slow, and my own sense of time was the thing that made it slow, and when I was asleep, the whole arrangement got soft at the edges. I woke up to the sound of the front door not closing. That is a specific sound. It is the absence of the click. It is the small breath of outside air that finds the back of your neck and tells you, before your eyes are even open, that something has gone wrong. I came up out of the chair so fast I knocked it over. Ren. The hallway was empty. Ren, I ran. The front door was open 3 inches. Through the gap I could see a slice of the cul-de-sac, the grass gone yellow, a child's bicycle on its side in the neighbor's yard, and at the far curb, the blue truck. The truck was no longer empty. Ren was standing at the serving window on her tiptoes. The old man was leaning down toward her. He had something in his hand, something white, and she was reaching for it, and the look on her face was the look of a child who has, for the first time in her short life, been offered something simply because someone wanted to be kind to her. I have replayed that look 1,000 times. I have. I am not a man who lies to himself about what I saw. I stepped out onto the porch. The air was wrong. It was thicker than it should have been, and the light had a yellow cast like an old photograph. And the maples at the end of the street were not the maples I remembered. They were taller. The whole cul-de-sac was a little taller, a little more weathered, a little more tired. 7 years of weather had passed out here while I had been keeping us small inside the walls. I had known this. I had known it abstractly, seeing it was different. I walked across the yard. The grass crunched. The old man saw me coming and did not move. He just stood there at his window with the ice cream half extended, and his slate eyes on mine, and he waited. When I was close enough, I said very quietly, "Get back inside, Ren." She did not move. Ren. "He knows, Mom," she said. The old man inclined his head, just a fraction, like a man acknowledging that a long argument had finally reached its real subject. "Henry," he said. His voice was rough. "It's been a while. I had never seen him before. I had never heard the name," he said next. "Mary's father," he said. The street went very quiet. "I want to tell you that I knew immediately what to do. I want to tell you I was the man Mary had married. The man who solved problems by running at them. The man who once carried a stranger out of a burning car because no one else was moving. I want to tell you a great many things about myself. What I did was stand there on the curb with my mouth open while my daughter accepted an ice cream from her grandfather. His name was Alan. He had been in hiding since before Mary was born. He could not be seen if he did not want to be seen, which is its own kind of gift and the only reason he had survived the first sweeps. He sat at my kitchen table that night with his cap in his lap, and he told me things I had spent 6 years refusing to know. Mary was not dead. The veil had taken her. Not killed her. Taken her. There was a facility, a real one, inside a real mountain in what used to be Colorado, and they were keeping her there, along with several hundred others, and they were keeping her because of what she could do, and because of what they thought she would, eventually, do for them. "They didn't tell you," Alan said. "Because they didn't want you to come. I would have come. That's why." I looked at him across the table. I looked at Ren, who was asleep on the couch with the white smear of melted ice cream still on her chin. I looked at my own hands. They were shaking. They had been shaking for 6 years and I had only just now noticed. "What does she do?" I said. Alan didn't answer right away. He turned his cap in his lap once, twice. "She flies," he said. I almost laughed. It was such a small word for such a large thing. "And the girl," he said. I waited. "The girl is more than her mother." I had known this. I had known it from the first month of Ren's life, when objects had begun to move in the room she was crying in, and from the second year, when the family dog had walked, calm as a Sunday, into the pond out back and not come up. I had known it the way you know. There is something in the basement when you are a child, and you keep the door closed, because keeping the door closed is the entire shape of your courage. "What is she?" I said. "She's a girl," Alan said. "Henry, she's a girl, but the Veal have a word for what's inside her. They call it a Class 1. And what does a Class 1 do?" He looked at me with great gentleness. "Anything she wants," he said. We left 2 nights later. I had not wanted to. I had wanted to seal the door again and slow the house down to a crawl. Slow it so far that the world outside would forget we existed. Slow it until Ren was an old woman in a kitchen of her own, and the Veil were a story she told her own children. Somewhere safe. But the Veal had a way of finding what was hidden. eventually, and Alan said the neighbors across the street had been asking questions about us. And the man who came once a month to read the meter had stopped coming and been replaced by a new one, who took twice as long and looked at our windows. We were on a clock. We had always been on a clock. I had just been hiding the face of it from myself. I dressed Ren in 3 layers. I packed a bag with crackers, 2 bottles of water, the pop-up book her mother had made for her before everything came apart, and a small flat stone Mary had given me on the day Ren was born. The stone said nothing. It was just a stone. I had been carrying it for 7 years. Alan was waiting in the truck. He had painted over the smiling cone with a coat of flat gray. In the cab he had a thermos of coffee and a pistol on the dash, and an expression I recognized, because it was the expression Mary used to get before a long drive. The set of his jaw. The way his eyes went somewhere else. We pulled out of the cul-de-sac at 3 in the morning. There was a fog. The houses on either side were dark. As we passed the Reed's house, the curtain in the upstairs window moved, just slightly, and a face looked out at us, and the face did not wave. I had paid Nancy Reed a great deal of money, over the years, to take Ren in if something happened to me. I had thought of her as a friend. I want to be honest about how badly I had misread her, because it matters to what happened next. We drove east. Ren slept against my shoulder. The miles came at us in a long gray stream, and Alan did not speak much, and the radio played a station that was no longer a station, just a hum, just the sound of the world breathing through its teeth. Somewhere outside Boise, the lights came up behind us. They were not Vel. The Vel never bothered. The Veal had humans for this kind of work, and the humans were worse because the humans had chosen it. They had badges that said ADF, Abnormal Defense Force. They had black vehicles and black jackets and a kind of cheerful brutality that the Veal, in their patient silver wedges, did not bother to feel. Alan said, "Hold her." I held her. He stopped the truck on the shoulder. The lights came around us, 4 cars, fanning out the way they teach you to fan out when you have already decided how this ends. A woman got out of the lead car. Korean, maybe 40, tactical vest, sidearm at the hip. Her name turned out to be Reyes. She walked up to the driver's side window with her hand on her weapon and she said, very calmly, "Step out of the vehicle." Alan did. He kept his hands where she could see them. She looked past him into the cab and she saw Ren on my lap and her face did a thing. Just for a half second, I saw it. The face of a person who has been told, for years, that the children are weapons, and who is meeting one of the children, and who is having a moment of trouble with the math. Then her face went smooth again. "Sir," she said to me, "I need you to come out as well. Bring the girl." I looked at Ren. She was awake now. She was looking up at Agent Reyes through the windshield with her brown, wide-set eyes. She was very calm. Children, I have learned, are calm in the moments when adults expect them to be afraid, and afraid in the moments when adults nothing is happening at all. "Daddy," Ren said. "It's okay, sweetheart. Daddy." She even sealed with a picture of me on her desk. I did not know what that meant. I do not think Reyes did either. But Reyes's hand tightened on her sidearm, and a small thread of red appeared at the corner of her left eye, and she blinked hard. I have to stop and say something here. I have to be careful. Because what happened next is the thing they will tell stories about, if there are still people to tell stories, and I want to get it right. Ren did not attack her. Ren did not do anything you would call attacking. She just looked at Agent Reyes, the way a child looks at a stranger she has decided to be curious about, and she said very softly, "You don't really want to." That was all. Agent Reyes took her hand off her weapon. She looked at it as if it belonged to someone else. Then she turned, slowly, and she walked back to her vehicle, and she got in, and she sat there with both hands on the wheel and her shoulders shaking, and the 3 other cars sat behind her with their lights still spinning and their doors still open, and nobody came at us, and nobody fired, and after a long time, Alan put the truck in gear and we drove away. We drove for an hour before anyone spoke. Then Alan said without looking at me, "She's 7, I know." She didn't even raise her voice. "I know, Henry. She's 7. I held my daughter against me. She had fallen asleep again. The ice cream smear was still on her chin. I thought of the glass of water on the kitchen counter 4 years ago. I thought of her face when she had said, "It's smaller than I thought." I thought, my God, what have I made? We slept that night in the back of the truck off a fire road in country I did not recognize. Alan took the first watch. I lay on my side with Ren curled against my chest, the way she had curled against me when she was a baby, and I listened to her breathe, and I tried to remember a thing her mother had said to me, once, in a kitchen, in another country, in another lifetime. Mary had been pregnant, just barely. We had not told anyone yet. She had been standing at the sink with her back to me, washing a single plate over and over, and she had said without turning around, "Henry, what if she's like me?" I had said, "Then we love her." She had said, "What if she's more than me?" I had not had an answer. I remember not having an answer. I remember the way the back of her neck looked in the kitchen light, and the way her hands moved in the soapy water, and the way the question hung in the room afterward, like a curtain we had pulled across the doorway and were both pretending not to see. I had an answer now. The answer was that we loved her anyway. The answer was that there was no version of this where you stopped loving her because she was too much. The answer was that more than me was the whole point of having a child. You make a thing that is bigger than you, and you give it to the world, and you hope, you just hope, that you have given it enough of the small and useful things, the manners, and the patience, and the way of touching another person's neck, to keep the bigness from eating it alive. I lay there in the truck bed with my daughter against my chest, and I prayed for the first time in years, in a language I did not know I still spoke. Then I slept. In the morning, Alan made coffee on a small camp stove, and we drank it standing up in the long shadow of the truck, and Ren ate a granola bar and watched the desert turn gold, and nobody said anything for a long time. The radio in the cab was on very low, and the radio was talking about us. It was saying that a black ice cream truck had been seen in 3 states overnight, and that the public should report sightings, and that under no circumstances should anyone approach the vehicle, and that the occupants were considered armed and abnormal and dangerous. Ren listened to this with great seriousness. When the radio was finished, she said, "They got the color wrong." Alan laughed. It surprised him. He laughed the way old men laugh when they have not laughed in a while, in a single hard bark. And then he reached over and he put his hand on the top of her head very lightly, like a man who has been practicing the gesture for a long time without anything to practice on. "Yeah," he said. "They got a lot wrong. The mountain was real. I had been telling her for years that it was not. I had told her this because telling her this was the only way I knew how to keep her from walking, all by herself, up to the door at the top of it. But it was real. We came over a rise in the road on the 3rd morning, and there it was. A long granite shoulder rising out of the high desert with snow on its top, and a road switchbacking up its face, and a chain-link fence around its base that ran for miles, and inside the fence, set into the rock like a great square mouth, the door. She drew that door, I thought. She drew it when she was 4. Alan stopped the truck on a bluff about 2 miles out. He killed the engine. We sat in the silence of the desert and we looked. "She's in there," he said. "How do you know?" "Because I've been outside this fence for 3 years, Henry. And because she calls." I did not ask him how she called. I did not need to. I had been hearing her call, too, for years, in my daughter's voice. In songs my daughter sang that my daughter could not have learned. I had simply not let myself know what I was hearing. Ren was awake. She was sitting forward between us, with her small hands on the dashboard, and she was staring at the door in the mountain like a person staring at her own front porch. "That's where she lives," Ren said. "Yes," I said. "Can we go get her?" I looked at Alan. Alan looked at me. We had a plan. We had spent the long drive making it. The plan involved Alan going invisible and going in through a maintenance hatch on the backside of the mountain, and me using what little time I had left in me to slow the inside of the facility down to a crawl, and Ren staying in the truck and waiting. We had agreed on the plan. We had shaken hands on it. We had not asked her. I want to be honest, I had not even thought to ask her. She was 7. I had spent every day of those 7 years decisions in what she would be told and what she would not, what she would see and what she would not, what she would carry and what I would carry for her. That was the entire shape of being her father. That was the whole job. She turned and she looked at me. Her hand came up. She put it flat on my cheek the way her mother used to. "Daddy," she said, "it's smaller than you thought." I am not going to tell you everything that happened inside the mountain. Some of it is not mine to tell. Some of it I do not have the words for, but I will tell you the parts that matter. Alan went in first. He shimmered out of sight beside the truck, and we did not see him again for 19 minutes. When the gate at the bottom of the road rolled open on its own, we knew he had made it to the control room. I drove the truck up the switchback. I drove slowly. I had been spending myself for an hour by then, pouring my gift outward, and the whole mountain was getting soft at the edges. The guards at the upper checkpoint moved like men underwater. One of them was raising a radio to his mouth. He never quite finished raising it. I drove past him at 5 miles an hour, and he watched me go with an expression of mild, dreamy puzzlement. Inside the door there was a long corridor with a low ceiling and concrete walls and fluorescent lights that buzzed at half speed. Ren held my hand. We walked. We passed rooms with thick glass windows, and behind some of the windows there were people, and the people looked out at us, and I could not look at them. I could not. Not yet. There were children in some of those rooms. I felt them watching us. I felt the weight of them, all those held lives, pressing on the corridor like air pressure before a storm. There was a boy of maybe 10 with his palm flat against one of the windows. There was an old woman lying very still on a steel bed. There was a girl no more than 4 in a room with a single soft toy and a single dim lamp, and she watched us go by with eyes that did not blink. Or Ren did not look at her. Ren did not look at any of them. I think if she had looked even for a second, she would not have been able to keep walking, and we would have all of us, every one of us in that mountain, ended right there. I want to be honest about the cost of walking past those rooms. I want to be honest about what it took out of her, and what it took out of me, and what it set into the long shape of who she would become. There are things you do as a parent that you know, even as you are doing them, will mark your child. This was one of them. We walked, we kept walking. I told myself, and I told her without words, the only thing a father can tell a daughter in a corridor like that, which is, we will come back. We will come back. We are not leaving them. We are coming back. At the end of the corridor was a door with a keypad and a red light. I did not have the code. I did not need it. Ren reached up and put her small palm flat on the keypad, and the red light turned green, and the door slid open, and we stepped through. The room on the other side was round. The ceiling was high. The walls were padded white. In the middle of the room on a cot, there was a woman. She sat up. She had Mary's hair. She had Mary's mouth. She had a thin red line under her left eye, where someone had hit her recently with something hard. She looked at us across the white round room, and she did not move, and she did not speak, and I understood that she did not believe what she was seeing. Ren let go of my hand. She walked across the room. She climbed onto the cot. She sat down next to her mother. She did not say anything. She just took her mother's hand and put it against her own cheek, the way her mother used to do, the way I had been trying for 6 years to learn. Mary made a sound that was not quite a word. We held each other for a very long time. We did not speak. There was nothing in the language we had been given that fit. I had been carrying a small flat stone in my pocket for 7 years, and I took it out, and I put it in Mary's palm, and she closed her fingers around it, and her shoulders started to shake, and that was how we said hello. She looked at me over the top of our daughter's head. She had not asked yet how long it had been. She had not asked how Ren had grown so big. She had not asked any of the questions a person locked in a white round room for 7 years should have been ready to ask. She was just looking at me, with her thin red line under her eye, and her hand around our daughter's hand. And what was in her face was a kind of grief that I had only seen once before, in a hospital corridor, after my own mother died, on the face of a man I did not know who had been waiting for news that did not come. She had thought we were dead. She had thought, all this time, that the veal had killed us, and that the reason they had not let her out was that there was nothing left outside to come home to. I saw it in her face. I saw the whole shape of what she had been carrying, and I saw it crack. And I saw behind the crack the woman I had married. She was still in there. She had been in there the whole time. She had been waiting. Henry, she said. Just my name. Just that. I'm here, I said. You came. We came. She put her forehead against mine. Our daughter was between us. Very small, very quiet, with her face pressed into the front of her mother's thin gray shirt. And the 3 of us stayed like that for as long as we could, which turned out to be not very long at all. Then the alarm started. It was Alan who saved us. I want this part to be remembered. He was old. He was a tired old man with a tired old gift, and he had been alone for a very long time, and he had done a great deal of foolish, brave, unforgivable, beautiful things in the course of staying that way. When the alarm started, he came over the intercom from the control room, calm as a man ordering coffee, and he said, "Henry, there's a unit coming up the corridor. I'm going to lock myself in. You have about 90 seconds before they break through to me. After that, they'll come for you. Alan, take them out the south exit. There's a service road. The truck will get you to the trees. Alan, come with us." There was a pause. Then he said, "Tell her about her grandfather." That was all he said. We never saw him again. I am told that when the ADF finally broke through into the control room, they found a chair pushed back from the console and a brown cap on the seat, and no one else in the room, and that they searched the mountain for 3 days and did not find him, and that some of them, The ones who were there are still looking. I would like to believe he is somewhere. I would like that very much. We ran. Mary carried Ren. We came out of the south exit into a stand of pines, and the alarms were behind us, and the sky was opening up overhead. And Mary stopped at the edge of the trees, and she set Ren down and she said, "We have to go up." I said, "I can't go up." She said, "I know." Then she said, to our daughter, "Hold on tight. I want to tell you what humans are. I have had a lot of years to think about it. I have had a lot of years to watch the veil, in their long silver patience, decide that we were a problem to be managed. And I have had a lot of years to be managed. And I have had a lot of years to watch my own kind line up to do the managing for them. I am not going to lie to you and tell you we are good. We are not always good. We did not deserve, every one of us, to keep this planet. But I will tell you what I saw. I saw an old man with slate eyes drive a beat-up ice cream truck up to a stranger's house, 4 days in a row, because his granddaughter was inside, and he wanted to meet her, and he wanted to bring her ice cream, and he did not know what else to do. I saw a woman who could fly choose, at the last minute, not to fly away alone. I saw her come back down out of the sky 6 times, in the next 6 years, into one ADF camp after another, and I saw her carry out children, 1 or 2 at a time, and not once, did I see her sleep through a night without checking the locks. I saw my daughter, who could have made every soldier in that facility, put a gun to his own jaw with a single thought, choose not to. Not because she was weak, because she had decided at the age of 7, with her mother's hand against her cheek, that she did not want to be the thing they had spent 10 years telling her she was. That, I think, is the part the Vel never understood. They had catalogued our gifts. They had measured our outputs. They had built a whole occupation on the assumption that a Class 1, given the chance, would burn down the world. They had not understood that the thing about us, the small and stubborn and useful thing about us, is that we will look at a glass of water and decide it is the sky, and we will look at our own hand full of fire and decide, at the last possible second, to set the fire down. It is not always enough, I know that. It was enough that day. We live in a house on the side of a different mountain now. There is no fence. There is a vegetable garden, and a goat, and a porch that catches the morning sun, and a girl who is 13 now and getting taller every week. She has her mother's hair. She has her grandfather's slate eyes. She has sometimes a very small smear of pencil graphite on her cheek because she draws constantly, and what she draws, more than anything else, is doors. Open ones. The Veal are still here. We are still on a clock. We are always on a clock. But there are more of us now than there were, and we know how to find each other. And we know how to slow time when we need to, and speed it up when we have to. And we know how to look at a thing that has called itself patient for 100 years, and decide, very quietly, that our patience is older. Last week one of the long silver wedges came down low over the valley. It hung there for an afternoon. We sat on the porch and watched it, the 3 of us, with the goat tied up to the rail and the radio off and the sun going slowly toward the western ridge. Ren did not lift a hand. She did not have to. After a while the wedge turned, very slowly the way a man turns when he has remembered that he left the stove on, and it lifted and it went away. It went away the way they have started to go away, more and more lately, from the small places. They do not know yet that they are leaving. They will figure it out. The Veal figure everything out eventually. They are patient, so are we. Last night Ren came out to the porch with 2 glasses of water. She handed me one. We sat in the dark together and watched the long silver wedges go by overhead, very high up, going somewhere they thought was important. After a while she held her glass up to the porch light. "Look, Dad," she said. The water caught the light, it held it. "The whole sky," she said. "Right here in my hand." She was smiling. She was 13, and she was smiling at a glass of tap water, like it was the best joke in the world. And somewhere over the ridge a coyote was answering another coyote. And somewhere down the valley her mother was coming home with the truck. And I thought, all right, we are still here.